So if anybody misses this or missed half of it, a part of it, they can catch a replay on the 312 YouTube channel. I'll post that here and all over so that you guys can, and in the XWA announcement channel so that you all get a chance to catch up. All right. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. Super exciting day for us, for X-Wing at the XWA. Really the big first step when it comes to new stuff, right? Just for lack of a better way to phrase it, new content. And I have the three lovely designers. I use lovely in a very sparing way. Just kidding. These guys are great. To talk about the new content, Paul is the design lead, and then he's got his two companions here, his co-colleague, co-workers, whatever. What do you call you guys? What do you guys like to call yourselves? Co-pilots.
What the team? I don't. Yeah, we don't have
team.
Like team.
There's no official name that I'm like missing.
No.
I'm just I'm like my head just envisioned like Paul is Krennic and we're his Death Troopers. I don't know.
I like that a lot actually. Yeah, and you guys just speak in encrypted, like just it's all encrypted. No one knows what you're saying.
Deploy the garrison.
So close to greatness.
It's close. But speaking of greatness, we are here to celebrate and talk about the new content. I don't know if you guys have ever done. Some of you maybe have not done a Discord stage before. We've done a few of these now. Essentially, it's like a virtual panel. So we do have the chat that we'll be monitoring as much as we can. I know there's a lot of you, so it'll be difficult for us. So that's why I strongly recommend that if you have a question that you request to speak, and you can ask the question to us and chat with us for a moment, and we can answer your question that way. It's also just, I think, overall just a good way to go for this format. So most of the time that we spend here in the next hour or so is going to be answering your guys' questions, but I do want to throw it over to these guys to talk about the design team philosophy, this new content, and just some general, overall blurbs about what we're looking at with these really exciting new standardized loadout pilots. So obviously, I'm just going to first start with you guys introducing yourselves and why you chose to be a part of the XWA design team. So Paul, I'll throw it over to you first, if you don't mind.
Sure. So yes, I'm Paul Heaver. For those of you who don't know, I am the design lead for XWA. I decided to become the design lead after reading the effectively the descriptions of the different leads. They put the leads for design, for points, the different committee members, so on and so forth. And the thing that was most interesting to me was the designing new cards and new content. And the other aspect of design is it's the overall arching basically guidance for where the game is going, for like theme and things like that. So yeah, I decided to run for that, and I was elected the design lead by the XWA folks, and it was rapidly shown that it is not a one-person job. So yeah, I pulled Ryan aboard myself. I was like, I know Ryan, and I know he has good ideas, so I grabbed him. And Roberto expressed some interest in it, and he had some great ideas, and is a very valuable addition to the team. He keeps everything in check, and he spends a lot of hours proofreading and creating new cards and everything. So yeah, we started with the epic material. That was mostly myself and Ryan who worked on that, and then Roberto joined us, and he worked on a lot of the SL cards that you guys are getting today. And those are mostly Ryan and Roberto took the lead on doing a lot of those, and I just kind of gave my blessing or said, hey, maybe we should tweak this or do that, and I gave kind of overarching goals of like how many new abilities per card, how many old abilities, how complex we wanted things to be. So that's my overall story. I can pass it off to Ryan or Roberto to fill out the corner cases and stuff.
Yeah, it's Ryan Staniszewski here. I became interested on the design stuff, mostly because like I found a lot of things in the design of X-Wing as I've been playing it over the years to be of kind of just a high interest to me, and like similar to Paul, it like kind of drives how the game's going to go forward. And also, like, Paul's my friend. I'd like to work with Paul. Not that other people aren't also my friends in points team or rules team. I probably couldn't handle rules. I read a lot, but understanding is another story. Um, and then points team guys, they're doing a great job over there. Greg and Ollie and Catherine, and I'm probably missing someone. I feel bad about that. But anyway,
I think it's Dale.
yeah, working on the what?
I think it's
Oh,
I think
Dale.
it's Dale.
right?
Yeah, Dale Cromwell.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like, it was definitely fun to get going on getting like Epic back into the fold for 2.5, essentially, rule set of X-Wing, and then having the SL cards to really like start to fill out the factions that had never gotten them. So um, I will say it was actually quite a lot of fun to build not only things that are really like tailored, but also to a theme of a point in time in Star Wars, and that felt really nice to do. And I will echo what Paul said. Roberto has been an absolute rock star. We didn't have a lot of the SL templating that we have now without him, and he's been amazing.
All right, all right. I will blush a bit. Yeah, so my name is Roberto. I am a Spanish guy living in Poland, part of the Polish community, and I've been playing X-Wing for a long time. In my private life, I really enjoy actually board gaming, and actually I work as well for design in some board games for a Norwegian company. So when the opportunity arose that I could perhaps chip in and provide some ideas and feedback for design, I decided to speak with Paul and others to let them know what I could do. And they graciously took me in more or less when you guys started, I believe, already with some of the scam cards. So a few of the scam cards were already more or less highlighted how they would go. And I believe that's more or less around the time I joined the team. And yeah, together with Ryan, with Paul, I think that it's been quite a great experience working together. We each are providing our ideas. We are helping each other, providing feedback or trying to improve what the others are doing in a really collaborative work where the three of us are free to say what we think about how we believe we could improve things, and hopefully that all will be looking into a really solid first pair of packs that provide plenty of time of fun for everybody.
Yeah, and I know that there's been a lot of hype building. That's kind of, I feel like, a part of my job is to try to build some hype and help with that for these, and the reception has been overall really good, which is awesome. Apparently, Roberto, you have a positively enchanting accent, by the way. It's
I
positively
use it
enchanting.
often with my wife to try to convince her to get some Star Wars themed stuff.
Um, So, guys, the main thing I think that we should start with, and again, a reminder to the audience, you guys do want to ask any questions, you can request to speak and we can bring you up and you can ask your questions. I'll monitor the chat here and there, but just easier that way for those that jumped in late. Let's talk about philosophy really quick. So, we're starting with standardized loadout pilots. Some folks don't, we don't, maybe they missed the memo on exactly why we're starting with standardized loadout pilots. So I think I'd like to talk about that. And also, when it comes to designing these, what were things that you were looking to implement and things that you really wanted to avoid that maybe some past standardized loadout pilots suffered from? I'll just throw it to you guys to, whoever wants to answer those first, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So we went with standardized loadout, and we do mention this in the text, but I know X-Wing players don't like to read. So the main reason we did this was it's kind of a test of the process, and the easiest thing to do is standardized loadout cards from the case of breaking the game. Like if we put out a bad upgrade and broke the game wide open, we'd have to immediately step back and figure out how to fix it and everything. Standardized loadouts, if we start with them, we can make them thematic and kind of really focus on theme. And if we screw up, then we can just remove that card entirely from the pool. For example, like we didn't we put out 10 of each of the different standardized loadouts, so Scum, First Order, and Resistance. And we didn't even plan on putting out all 10. Our original plan was we're gonna throw out as many ideas as we have and cut them down to, you know, maybe even less than that, because some of them we figured the playtesters would hate or something would be wrong with them. And we actually came out really high up on the numbers that more than we planned to put out. So I mean, it's also great for our like other teams that are organizing all the releases. Like, we can write text, that's easy enough to do, but you know, the other teams have to put together the templates for it, and you know, actually create the card, and you know, put art on it and everything, and do all that other stuff. So that's pretty, you know, kudos to them. But to answer your last question, the things we tried to avoid here were just making them really combat focused cards. So we knew we wanted to give it to the 3 factions that didn't really have a lot of SL cards, and we were like, oh, we don't want them to just be, here, have target lock focus on your attack. We wanted it to be like really nimble cards, really mobile cards. I know we wanted like a lot of the resistance stuff to be, you know, like Poe and Stromboli. I forget the guy's actual name. Sorry, Roberto. But we wanted them to be very nimble and mobile. We wanted First Order to be a little more aggressive and a little less 3 agility gang. And we wanted Scum to just be like tricksy and thematic. And so we tried to find themes that had them all be different and interesting. So I think that answers most of that, but you know, the rest of you guys can fill in too.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thanks. Ryan, Roberto, what about you guys when it comes to overall approach?
I think Paul hit the nail on the head, and it was a good, like, he had a general numerical guideline as like a ratio of like, oh, if we have an SL card, we should try and hit this ratio of like new card to existing card. And it's not always just existing cards completely. Like, we've definitely taken some abilities that exist on one version of a card and transposed it to what essentially would be like a new upgrade, but has the same ability, right? Like, do an example. We wanted long shot to have, like, we were going through some testing, the long shot FOSL. That one, you know, we were working with a tech slot we wanted to put in there, and it had like other tech before, but it like didn't really like synergize. It didn't feel good. So we're like, well, what if we just took the E-wing chassis ability and turned it into a tech slot on long shot, and that just purely like fit long shot thematically. It worked a lot well for some synergistic based abilities in other parts of the pack. So things like that, where we even took some cards that already exist or abilities that already exist, but transposed them onto SLs in a different manner that would, in theory, make a new upgrade, but doesn't make a new complete experience that someone would have to digest and read, and we'd have to test. I mean, that was the other part too, is we didn't want to overload early on new things for testers to try and balance between. So the more familiarity we had, and while still offering new experiences, you know, the theoretically the mitigating the chances of us breaking something or not finding a potential issue.
On the playtest side of things, can we talk? I don't remember the exact size of the playtest groups over the total playtester count. I know it was significant. How did you guys feel about the playtest process and getting these to a point where you felt confident, and, you know, today releasing them for wide consumption?
I thought the playtesters did a really good job. I can't speak to the size of them either, because we have a special playtest lead who takes care of you know, the care and feeding of the playtesters, and I think there's like 10 to 12 different groups that, you know, some of them are very prolific in their testing, some of them are a little less. You know, it ebbs and flows on all the different groups. That's just expected. But I'm very happy with their results. We told them occasionally, like, hey, we really want to focus on the new ability for Boba, for example, because we did change Boba kind of late in the game. And so we were like, please test Boba. and they dropped what they were doing and tested a bunch of boba games and tried them out, and then we tweaked them some more, and he went through probably the most iterations at the end of the process. There's always at the end, you always are like, man, if only we had another 2 weeks or whatever, like we could probably play test some more stuff and get a little more tweaks here and there and figure it out a little bit more. But there's always like one or two cards that you're like, oh, I wish I could test this a little bit more. But I think it's at a really good spot right now. I think all the cards that we tested, we went through with the points team and the rules team and sat down with them and said, hey, you guys all agree with the points total for this? The rules text is all good. The playtest lead was brought into, and we were like, any comments from the playtesters, any negative results? And everyone seemed to be pretty happy with all of the cards. So I think, I mean, for our first release, I'm sure there's going to be something hidden somewhere that we didn't catch, but hopefully it's nothing too big.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm going to answer some questions that I've seen in the chat. The first one, just segueing from that, Paul, is: would you be more likely to, if we catch something that ends up being a little too good or a little, it's underperforming a little too much, more likely to make an update to just the points cost of the pilot, or making more significant or nuanced changes like an errata or an update to rules or wording or something in the card itself?
I would prefer a points change. We'd have to talk with the points team to make sure, and the rest of our team. But generally, once it's on a card and people are using it, and I know Infinite Arena is going to be selling some of the cards and everything. So like, once people have it in hand, it's going to be kind of annoying to change it afterwards. So I would prefer a points change.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And that's something, there are some of those questions, we do appreciate them being asked, or we're not necessarily prepared to 100% commit to like how absolutely we will do it forever with things like that. So yeah, there are larger conversations to be had, but those are, we will consider the right avenue that works, that doesn't confuse the player base at the same time. That is potentially a big issue with making erratas and stuff like that. That's why we try to go through an intensive playtest process. Speaking on Infinite Arenas, I do want to just give a mention that Jim Bob from Infinite Arenas has graciously put up some really beautiful art versions of these pilots that you can buy at cost. Essentially, he's not profiting off of this. I just want to kind of really make sure you all know that. But definitely want to give him a proper shout out. You should check those out. They're really nice cards. And I do want to address, you guys will see that you go to the PDFs, the non-epic print and play download PDFs of these new pilots. They're blank canvases. We do want to differentiate between the print and play and the prize packs or the prize kits coming out, where you'll have opportunities to get art versions of these pilots as well. It's not to punish anybody or really withhold anything. It's just we do want to incentivize folks to play in tournaments and OP, and support creators like Jim Bob as well. But the main reason is for organized play. That's why you see that. Lastly, a question about why we didn't update points for anything else that wasn't new. It's because we had a points update on February 13th. It was less than 2 months ago, and we already did 4 versions of points updates. So there's just not, the team just doesn't find it necessary to do another points update, to do 5 of them in the manner of just a few months, or 6 months, I think, a little less than that. So yeah, that's really to answer that question. We do want a cadence that it's consistent, and it's not going to be once a year. It'll probably be at least twice a year that we do updates, but we are moving past beta points. We're not calling it XWA beta anymore. If you see that language anywhere, it will be addressed soon enough. But we're satisfied with where we've gotten to at this point to really kind of kick things off with a non-beta point set, and that includes these new pilots. So it's like nobody wants to talk to us, which is cool. It makes it easy for us, huh? We just get to talk to each other and answer some questions in the chat. But again, don't be shy. If you guys want to jump on voice, you could be. It's like those infamous like city council meetings where someone walks up and says something crazy.
Someone specifically asks like how many revisions did a card, because Paul had talked about how Boba had some late adjustments. There was a wide range. Some cards were like out the gate, playtesting felt good. We just needed to tidy up like some just wording, proofreading by Roberto, making sure everything was clean. And yeah, some of them were like it took a lot of iterations, a lot of discussion, a lot of time to really figure them out, because whether it would be, I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there was one that we got to a point where we had to do a lot of iterations that was too powerful. It was something that generally started underpowered to the testers because we were trying to rein it back in originally, and then we just kind of blew it open with one of them and then dialed it back from there.
Yeah, that was the general gist of it. Is we generally started kind of low end on the power end, and the playtesters were like, "This is too weak," especially for, like, for example, for Boba. They're like, "He's a 7-point ship." He's a 7-point ship, right? I don't even remember the point cost of
Yeah,
the ships
7.
anymore. He's a 7-point ship. Let's and so I was like, fine, let's blow him out, make him completely overpowered. And yeah, he was completely overpowered. And so then we scaled him back down to where he was just normal powered. Like, first it
Yeah.
was too cold, then it was too hot, then it was just right.
Yeah, I think we're in the warm territory right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, ideally you want, if you have a Star Wars game and Boba Fett or Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker are unplayably bad, then you're doing something wrong. Like, you need to make them playable.
We do have a question I'm going to bring up. I, for some reason, can't disable streamer mode to show me the full username. So we're going to, it starts with the letter J. There we go. Jazz07. Just going to invite you to speak and ask your question here. See if he accepts. There he is.
Hey.
Hi.
Long time listener, first time caller. Sorry if this has been answered elsewhere, but is there going to be a scenario to go with these SLs, particularly evacuation of the car?
Man, I really was thinking about doing something like that, and I couldn't come up with a better idea, honestly, than the scenario that, I think you can reuse Battle of Endor, honestly, or Battle over Endor, as a assault on the what is it called, Roberto
the
Devastator?
full Matrix.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
It's quite a name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you can reuse that. We did talk about it and discuss it a little bit, but we just didn't have the chance to make up a new scenario. But like, I think you can reuse the BOE scenario. I think it'll still be a good time. It seemed like it's kind of applicable. Like, both ends, you can either have a resistance attacking the First Order, at the start of Dakar, or the other way around. You can have what is the Radis being under attack from
Yep.
the from the First Order. So you can kind of do it both ways.
Yeah, that's a good way. We can do on both sides of it, on both ends of the spectrum, because these SLs kind of encompass not only the evacuation of the car, but finding out the words of what the rest of the space was. Battle of Otechi, I think was how it was pronounced, or something like that. Oechi, Otechi.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, because for instance,
Matrix.
Kylo was not in the Dakar battle. He only joined later on in the OHC system.
Yep. So, and feel free as well, if you want to play it yourself, if you want to homebrew some like rules that revolve around hitting bombing a certain spot for the whole, launching bombs from the star fortresses. Do what you want. It sounds like a lot of fun to just, as Paul said, use the Endor stuff as a baseline.
Yeah, I think it's a good start.
Oh, for sure. So one thing that I feel like it goes without saying, but it's just kind of a friendly reminder to everyone, including our own selves, that bandwidth is very much a thing when it comes to what we focus on with XWA. And I think in a perfect world, if we had the teams in the time, we would be doing, just overall more to start. But we're just focusing on things like these new pilots first, and then of course, we can speak to a little bit, guys. I was going to ask you about new scenarios down the road. I know that some people aren't sure if we're getting those, but that's something that we're working on that will come later. But yeah, just bandwidth is a thing, right? If we could do new scenarios with new pilots and all of that together, that would be awesome. It's not that we don't care about it. I don't want there to be any sort of rhetoric or narrative that we just don't care about more casual battle over Endor or Siege of Coruscant, Yavin type scenarios. We do, and we do appreciate that style of X-Wing play. But it's just where we got to focus our time. So.
I think we had
You have 2 more people asking to speak. We started to open the floodgates here.
Yeah, like,
Yeah. Johnny, welcome.
Oh, hello. Yeah, my name is Jonathan. Hi, everyone. First of all, I think you guys are awesome. I just started playing in June, right before everything decided to start. AMG decided to boot us out and whatnot. But I really appreciate what you guys are doing, first and foremost. Actually, was a question from the chat that I also had in mind. Some Bailiff. I think a core question is, what is the expected power level of the format's design? Bailiff likes decimators. I haven't actually been able to run large ships myself, but he says as a decimator lover, I feel like larger high-cost ships are getting overvalued, can get an equal amount of strength from its 7-point cost when you're considering a 3 and 4 cost pair of ships instead, which I've also run into. It's like, it's usually better to take the smaller ships at the lower cost and have more of them than to have the bigger ship. Are we missing something? Are we trying to balance these out a different way? Like, kind of what's the idea and what's the goal for us, including those bigger ships as well?
So we definitely want the bigger ships to be valuable. Like I was mentioning before, when we were testing Boba, we kind of guessed at a certain power level, and our playtesters let us know that we guessed too low. So that might be a systemic thing. Maybe we are guessing too low in general for the power level for these bigger ships, for these more expensive ships. But for the decimators and other like customizable older ships in particular, a lot of that, I hate to throw Ali under the bus, but that's more the points teams sort of thing to figure out the balance level of like the power level of the different customizable like points level of everything of those ships. I don't think you're going to see I mean, I can't speak for Ollie, but I don't think we're going to see like a 6-point decimator anytime soon. That seems kind of scary. But yeah, we definitely are going to continue to tweak the numbers to try to make ships that aren't being used in events get more time on screen, more time getting used. So if decimators aren't being used for as an example, and you don't see them too often in events, then I'm sure Ali and his team will probably give them more loadout, or maybe even we'll design cards that are more designed towards because we are planning on coming up with more customizable pilots and customizable upgrades. That's probably going to be. I know some people are asking about a roadmap sometime late this year. We're starting to work nowish about that, so we'll start looking into things like that. Maybe there'll be a double officer thing that's kind of aimed towards Imperial decimators and shuttles and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to look at those like epic team upgrades as sort of a like template or reference point for those like double officer, double gunner level stuff for like a decimator like that would be cool. But I'll whiteboard things for sure. And I think a lot of this comes to, we're all there is a general bracket or window of like power level exists somewhere in this broad area. And I think there's so many ships right now, and there's a lot of like going back and forth, working through it, letting the community play it out, figure things, and find the right spots to really tweak things up or down. So it's still a lot of in progress things, but we do appreciate a lot of people who got that ship that they really love and they want to see it still do good. And we're hoping as a team collectively to still for everyone to still find value in each ship as best as we can. There's still a lot of them out there.
I'm gonna get Zestable on here to talk in a second, but I do see a lot of people asking questions, basically along the lines of, "Hey, this thing that I really like, or one of my favorite chassis or favorite pilots, are we going to see them be put in other factions? Are they going to be or see a redesign? Are we going to see new pilots for XYZ?" Just like a broad stroke answer to that is it's certainly possible. A lot of the times the XWA questions that I respond to, I'm seeing a lot of folks asking questions along those lines, and I mean, it's those are questions that I would also be excited to ask. Not knocking it at all, but it's possible. It's hard to just say yes. We're not gonna do everything, right? So, and I don't want to speak for design, but I feel like they probably would agree that there's a lot of things to look at and to think about, and it's difficult to just say that we're gonna do everything under the sun. 'Cause we don't want to overload with content and potentially get the game to a point where it's so dense that we can't even evaluate it anymore. That could be difficult when you continue to grow a game. You got to do it carefully and slowly, in the right pace. So
Yeah, that's definitely a risk. Is if you add too many. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in games where they've put out expansions that have added too many new mechanics and too many new things, and like especially if you're not like plugged into it every day and you just show up to it every couple of months, you're like, what is going on here? This isn't the game that I saw before. Like, so we want to add a little bit here and there. Like I said, in I don't know, call it 6 months, 7 months, we'll probably have something more for customizable stuff. New pilots, new upgrades, new scenarios, maybe. Uh, as we're working through a bunch of new stuff new ideas that we're now that we got the process all tweaked up, and you didn't everything came out pretty smoothly with only a little bit of panicking last minute. Uh, so now that we got the process good, I think we're good for moving forward.
yeah, I mean
I think
the
it's
analogy
also
I'm going to use is real quick. Sorry, Roberto, I'll throw it to you in a second. But is
That's
if
okay.
you're driving a nice new car and you see a speed bump ahead, are you going to accelerate 40 miles an hour? Or are you going to keep your speed at a safe driving speed? So don't want to go too fast too quickly and risk too much. So there's a lot going on in the game of X-Wing, right? Go ahead, Roberto. And Zestable, I promise
I
we're going to
just
bring you up in a second.
Sure. Now, I just wanted to say that also when we've been creating the new standard loadout cards, we've been actually quite careful with some of the new upgrades that we were creating because some of those may be candidates to, for instance, join the standard game later on. So that was also something that we had a consideration when creating new upgrades themselves, that they were not that strong or they were, like fun enough that perhaps at some point they could join the game as a customizable upgrade.
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
definitely had
definitely
people
a lot of
asking.
the
Yeah, they were asking, hey, like the playtesters would be like, why does this say primary attack when this character doesn't have any secondary attacks? We're like, well, in case we make it a real card. And there were a couple times that someone pointed out, hey, you should make that say primary attack in case it turns into a customizable card. And we said, oh, that's a great idea.
yeah, it's much easier to take a card off of it directly instead of slightly changing the word, because there's definitely been times where, I mean, the reverse has sometimes not been true. Like even under the AMG cards, like they've taken some cards that have existed as upgrades, put them on SL cards, but changed their wording just a little bit. And we actually have an instance of that. Everyone who's maybe reading the new Han SL should really pay attention to the wording for the Lando's Millennium Falcon. But ideally, if we can future-proof these so that they're more tidied up for if they do come out as full upgrades, that'd be great. Even not just full upgrades, like we're keeping an eye on some of the ships that have chassis abilities or other abilities that we might want to perpetuate amongst future uh, custom or other SLs. Like I think Roberto, Paul, and myself kind of collectively really like the idea of the winged reversal on the Bo-Katan Gauntlet. And if
Yeah.
we believe that's a good opportunity to have the winged reversal be a thing on all or future gauntlets, we probably really like that as long as it goes over well.
All right, Zestable. Here you go. Time to speak. Welcome.
Hey guys,
nice to meet you all. Just so you know, you guys are just like the hope for us all. So appreciate it. My question aligns with like how close are you working with like 3D creators? Obviously, 3D printing and X-Wing hasn't really taken off because a lot of the people in this group aren't really in it for the painting and assembling hobby because they all came pre-painted. But in the future, like for example, Mando's N1. But for other things, are you guys working with creators to have like some sort of 3D model ready to go if there is that in the roadmap to add new ships to the game, or is it more just you're focusing on the existing ships and updating them and adding pilots right now, and eventually we'll get there? I guess I wanted to get a finger on the pulse for that sort of thing because I'm always here for new content, new ships. I'm sure everybody else in the chat is thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put the design team on the spot for something like that. I think that it goes much more beyond like, just designing new content when it comes to physical components. We can all kind of chime in, but I'm happy to answer that question. When it comes to things like new ships, like 3D printing, new dice, all these like super exciting things that everyone thinks of when they think of like XWA, the new world of X-Wing moving forward. I'm right there with you guys. Like as a player myself, like I love that stuff too. But we're not like actively, working with people to develop any sense of the word, like a product right now. It's just too much on our plate to start with to like, hit the ground running and be doing all of that at once. However, those things are already becoming available. I've seen really good 3D prints of phantoms, of gunboats. People are already making different versions of the N1. And in future system open kits, not to tease too much, you might have a chance to get a really cool version of that, of the modified N1 with new stuff. That's the big question is like, okay, you create a new ship. How are people going to be able to, are they going to build a little Lego microfighter of it, or are you going to have a 3D print of it?
Yeah,
there's probably going to be a lot of options that people will have. It's just for it to be XWA sanctioned. Let's be real. We're not LFL. We're not a corporation. We have to be mindful of just like making products and selling products, even if it's at cost. So there are a lot of conversations being had about the best and most accessible way to do that. And I know the community is going to answer no matter what and have those as an option anyways. So, I can always point you to that Etsy shop or that group that you saw on Facebook that's making XYZ if you want to get in on that immediately. So, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. No, that's a great answer. I would just throw out there like I totally get not being able to like have a product line, right? We're not you guys aren't trying to make money, you're volunteers. Is there like any plan, like if you guys are developing new content, whatever, to inform these creators like before you guys even leak it, like, hey, just so you know, in a month we're going to be releasing this as beta. It might be a good idea for you to have this in your roadmap to develop. I don't know, just that seems like I guess are there any conversations with creators at all? Like is that happening, or is it more like we'll just trust that they're going to go where the market is and figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Oh, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Okay.
I did talk at because at Adepticon, Ken came by and gave me a 3D printed Mando N1, and I was like, "Wow, this looks really cool." And he was like, "So, if you guys make any new things, let me know." And so yeah, he's, and I'm sure all the any of the other ones that are going to be making those different files are going to want to be informed beforehand. And I'm sure we're not going to be like, surprise, here's a new ship. We're going to want Nick to hype the hell out of that and put out information that, hey, we're putting out some new ships. But currently on the current roadmap, I don't have any new ships planned this year. Okay. So that's not to say things might change. It might not. Who knows? But we've got a lot of material that we're trying to catch up on and put some stuff in from the current current media stuff.
Hey, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All Oh yeah, Maui Resistance Racers. We're gonna have to make 3D prints of all
It's
those.
always
for
Maui. It's
the-
Maui the Resistance Racers. It's like guaranteed. That's always what's gonna. It's in the chat. He's gonna talk about it. Liam, who's a part of XWA, wanted to say something. Hopefully, we can understand his thick Cockney accent.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Good. I hope my accent isn't terrible. Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
So basically, obviously, I got sight of some of these standard loadouts that you designed before the public, naturally. But I am interested to know how you got your short list of pilots, especially with Scum, and which ones you were most excited towards designing, plus kind of the direction you wanted to go for. I.e., I already know about Boba and how you guys were imagining that because I was part of the feedback for it. But yeah, that's basically it. I just wanted to know more about how you confronted the task at hand.
No, Roberto was definitely going through for the evacuation of Dakar. He went through very detailed what characters were named active during that battle. So like that was obviously a good starting point there. And then we were for Scum, we're very keen on making sure that well-known characters were hit, especially. I mean, obviously you can say Boba and Han, right? But like when and why, right? Like we wanted Boba to be Book of Boba Fett to introduce Fennec Shand. We wanted Han Solo from the movie Solo in the Kessel Run, right? Because we wanted, like, I had an initial feeling that maybe the Han as currently exists in the game as custom, like, it's kind of lacking in some of the theme and like getting that department of like getting all the characters on there. So wanted to do that, and then getting ships like the Star Viper, getting Prince Zizor, the focal character of the Star Viper originally, to really be a potential centerpiece, and it's not just it's always Guri, right? Now you have the choice between wanting a custom Guri or an SL Zizor, and I'll let Roberto kind of go further into some of the, because I know Roberto had a lot of early ideas on the evacuation to Dakar as well.
Yeah, like for the evacuation of the car, I believe that one of the key things that we were looking into as well when designing the pack had to do with the star fortresses. So quite early on, we knew that we wanted to have two different star fortresses. One of them was already previewed. I don't know how many of you had a chance to check the second pilot, which is Vinny in the Star Fortress, but we were designing those actually to showcase the two styles of Star Fortresses that we could have in the game. So Finch is heavily based around bombing, with his pilot ability allowing him to place the bombs in the sides, but also bending them sort of like the TIE bombers, and having some crew that allows him to reload more bombs to have them at the ready, while Vinny, for instance, is focused on shooting, just as we normally are kitting him out. So that was, for instance, a plan that we had early on, that we wanted to have different pilots for the Star Fortress that showcase a different style of equipping upgrades that we normally have on them. But there were some pilots like Stormrunning Stark that was new, and we had to come up, for instance, with an idea on what he should be based around. And as Ryan said, we spent some time trying to dig up any information that we could find on specific pilots to decide abilities that they could get. So for example, with Someroni, we stumbled upon some reference on him being able to keep up with Tali, since they were flying together, and he acts sort of as the wingman of Tali, and the fact that everybody praised him on how he was able to perform the same abilities, the same moves as Tali and so on. So we ended up just saying, okay, let's give him the ability to get an RZ2 A-wing dial instead of an X-wing dial, because he's effortlessly flying like A-wings, for instance. So that type of thing is what we were discussing along the way.
I brought Steven on as well. I know that I missed a part of him mentioning he could speak to 3D prints and everything like that. So I wanted him to have a chance to speak to that as well. So he's here.
Well, I just wanted to make a general comment for everybody because, like, I know there's a lot of related questions regarding that, and to be perfectly honest to you guys about like what is possible and what is not, it is still a process of discovery for us, even, right? Like, uh, the council is trying to give the team as much reign as possible in order to like take their creative vision and really, do what they need to do. At the end of the day, like there are going to be limitations of what we can and cannot do. We don't really know all those limitations yet. We're kind of developing it as we go. And specifically around the 3D ships, we want to do that stuff, but also like there are both limitations in what we can do because we don't have the resources, and also what we should do because we are representing the community and we don't want to step on the wrong toes. So moving that moving along that line and making sure that we do the right thing is always going to be a little bit of a dance. And but that's not to say we're not. If the chances are, if you're thinking of something that we should do, there's a good chance we're already thinking about it and we're like kind of like working in that direction. We're just trying to figure out the best way to approach it, right? And that's for all the things. I've seen questions about different point structures. I've seen questions about all sorts of stuff. And yeah, like we are aware. We're just like you guys. We're players as well, and we also see all the things that like we could potentially be doing. It's a question of like which ones can we actually pull off, which ones make the most sense, and which ones will have the best bang for the buck for everybody, right? And I'll just leave you guys on one last thing before my face disappears. So a lot of people at Adepticon, if you ran into Louis, you got to see it. But one of the things we are kind of prototyping as for the prizes for some of the new events that we're going to be running are N1 molds, specifically this little guy, which is
What is that made out of,
metal.
Steven?
Shiny,
Yeah.
shiny and chrome.
It's made of metal. It's very heavy. So whether or not we actually have it ready, we don't know. But we are prototyping it. We are looking at a bunch of stuff, trying to see what we can do. And so, when we have more of that information ready to announce, we will announce it. And in general, XKB is an open book. Like, we're not hiding anything. It's just a matter of like what's actually ready to be, broadcast to the world, so that we don't have a lot of follow-up questions like, but this is not ready. It's like we don't want to give out anything half-baked, but we're also not trying to obscure any information.
Yeah, nothing's being hidden.
All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Steven. Nothing's being. I saw a mention of that. That I just take offense to the suggestion that we're hiding anything. We've over communicated and been as transparent as possible with all the things that we want, or that we can really share. Everything else that we're not sharing is because we're not really sure on it, and we don't want anyone to overreact and get the community to think that we're taking steps to things we might actually end up doing. So, that's just, we're just not hiding anything. So just please don't suggest that we are. If you do, you're allowed to do that, but it's just not true. It is not true. I have a few more people waiting here, so I'm going to bring on, let's see, Nerve will join us.
Hello. Question for the design team. There's one ship in the Star Wars universe, like frame-wise, that is not an X-Wing. Which one would, for each of you, which one would you want to include, including you, Nick?
He's not the design team. We grant Nick the permission to speak, but he's not, whatever. He's not,
Is that the rank of master, yada, yada, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said
Not the
and
rank of
Nick.
designer.
He's not the same.
Oh man, okay. So if I had my druthers to just add a ship from nothing, like just create a new ship in, let's see. Ooh, that is a tough one. I like maybe one of the new like T whatever 85s, whatever the high end fancy X-wing.
Oh yeah, the T-85. Yep, that's right.
Or again, Maui resistance racers. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. I'd probably stay in that sort of resistance category, and it would be the resistance B-wing. Because I like B-wings, and I'd like to see what we can do with B-wings that aren't rebel B-wings.
My answer will be boring because I would say either of them. So I would have said the T-85 or the Resistance Bomber as well. I'm a Resistance player myself. So.
All right,
Man,
I'm
Totally
gonna
not
say
resistance bias at all. Please don't take it that way.
I'm about to add a
Resistance wing.
non-resistance suggestion, even though I have no bearing or weight on this at all. I'm just here. I'm basically a fan, for all things considered, to answer this question. But the Fondor Hullcraft from Andor as Scum and Rebels
Oh
would be
yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. And I just rewatched that, first 3 episodes. So give me a Stellan Skarsgård pilot an X-wing. give me Luthen,
I surely
please.
won't have nightmares about trying to design those laser beams out the side.
Yeah,
at all.
right. Yeah, right. That would be something.
Yeah, if you're flanking and at range 0 of the ship, you just die. That's
disintegrated.
Or take the center horizontal line and draw the line you in. No, I have to stop there. Too many
Yeah.
words that are new. No like it anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a fun one. You could have it in Scum and Rebels, maybe other factions, but probably those 2 makes the most sense.
Oh,
that's a good
people
question.
in the chat mentioning the Bad Batch shuttle. That's cool.
Yeah.
Idea. Big one. The TIE Dorito, aka the TIE Dagger, which I always thought if they were doing new ships by AMG, like they would have probably packaged in a wave the TIE Dagger and the Resistance B-Wing together.
Let's see. I got 2 more folks. Timbo, Slice, welcome.
I didn't see him. Oh, there we go.
Thanks, gents. I appreciate taking my question. Thanks for all you do, and appreciate you answering that question earlier about design space in the future. Obviously, with IP and everything like that, we have to tread carefully. And the choices you guys make on the new ships were great. Design question for the future, over the next horizon to the next field. As many of us have played this game for years and seen the rules and structure evolve, one of the biggest pivots or directional changes when AMG changed rules, they did away with lots of different abilities and ships and things that all shared common themes. Like, I don't want any rule or ship or upgrade that can allow one player to see another player's dial, or recharge abuse, or like Paul just getting rid of Thweek altogether, that kind of thing. Is there anything that went away that we missed from a design perspective over the next hill? Or are we happy with everything that's gone to bed and we're only interested about what's next? Thanks, for.
Okay, that's a tough question. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I was pretty happy when they got rid of dial peaking. Although we've kind of brought it back for XWA in that it exists again, and we are paying careful attention on a lot of the stuff that was banned in previous iterations of the game that we're kind of edging back. Like, for example, Sloane is still gone because she's a miserable experience to play against. So if it gets used and gets abused, we'll definitely address it. But I don't think we're gonna be going out of our way to get rid of stuff like dial peaking or any of the other things that have been previously banned. I think we're playing on for the foreseeable future, keeping that in, but we're going to keep a very close eye on it. And if we have to make any kind of error, we're going to err towards making it less playable rather than more playable, because honestly, the hidden dials aspect is a kind of a key part of the X-Wing game and key theme. But to answer the rest of your question about things that were taken away, if anything's coming back, there's a lot of the stuff that got taken away going into like 2.0, for example, was stuff like expertise or any of those other big name upgrades that basically just were auto thrusters, were just dice mods effectively. And I'm not sure if we're going to see those kind of things come back anytime soon. I don't think you're going to see an auto thrusters or a TLT. I mean, maybe you'll see a TLT, but it won't look at all like TLT did. Or expertise. You're not going to see stuff like that. Let's see. I hope that answers most of the question.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, since basically we've been like the points team mostly has exclusively been working in the extended format environment, I think we still have a lot of internal discussions and things that we're trying to see how we want to approach things going forward in terms of like what if and any additional formats are going to occur and how curtailed they're going to be. Is it going to be a quote standard and extended, or is it going to be, if people recall, a hyperspace and a extended, right? Like, so they're more curtailed. Is it stuff that is more like, extended, it actually has everything, and then like standard is everything minus anything we ban or restrict type of thing? A lot of those conversations are kind of still being discussed overall. Some of them a little closer to a resolution, but some are still formulating to figure out how we want to move forward, because a lot of those decisions will potentially impact how we implement and include any new upcoming custom upgrades or custom pilots. Because obviously, if we have to balance a new custom pilot with slots available that have slots that can have some banned cards, there could be a slight differentiation how we need to approach it, because if stuff is banned or not banned, we need to work around or with that. And if we have separate formats where everything's allowed and then there's some stuff that isn't allowed in another format, we have to try and do our best to make sure that it is a workable ship in both formats, not just one.
And formats is something that we can't decide as just the design team by ourselves. Like, that is a whole XWA, all hands on deck. Let's talk, have conversations amongst everybody and figure out how we want to move forward.
I have email. Liam will bring you on. Ooh, we get video. It's always exciting when we get videos. Hey.
First of all, how are you all doing today? I need to get that out there.
Great.
Good.
Good to hear. But my question is, I know at least in this channel that there is the homebrew section that a lot of people have created their own ships and pilot cards for. So I just want to ask if you've taken any inspiration from what the community has made for your own design decisions.
So, being completely honest, I try to avoid the homebrew section. Like,
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I don't like. I like looking at the titles of what people are putting in the homebrew section. I don't like looking at their implementation, because I don't want to really be. I don't know. I know. For example, FFG and AMG had issues with just getting unsolicited. Here, have this mechanic or whatever that we designed, because they wouldn't look at any of that stuff, and I'm trying to kind of follow along with that too, in that I don't really look at the exact way that people do things, but I do look at it in terms of, hey, what are people like? What are people interested in the future, and then maybe we can come up with our own way of doing it. So I look at the names, if not the content.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that answer.
Thanks, Liam. It's good to see you at Adepticon.
Good to see you. It was great to see you as well. I wish I got to see more people at Adepticon.
Yeah, well,
there's never enough time.
I know, there really isn't. Especially if you play well, like Paul over here, just like playing 3 straight days, or 3 days of X-Wing.
Liam had a good run too, I noticed.
A lot of us did. Just a good job to everybody involved is really what I have to say at this point.
Woo.
Nice job. Talk to you soon. All right. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the hour mark. We could go another like 15 minutes or so. Obviously, if anyone has, this is kind of going to start the last call for those who do want to ask questions and jump on, as just like Liam just did. a lot of really good questions you guys have asked. A lot of questions that really aren't for the design team specifically, or maybe it encompasses a bigger conversation. So I don't want, if you've asked a question that was maybe more about rules or products or prints rather. Just stop saying the word product anyways. It's a bad word. And we didn't answer it. I don't think we're ignoring you. It's just not something that we can address here with this crew, and maybe it's not something we have an answer to.
So
Yeah,
maybe
I
like
mean,
while we wait for more of those questions to be formulated, what if we just quickly go around the horn and everyone pick their favorite SL that they're excited to play out of the new pack? So Nick, how about you first, since you are not a designer?
yeah, I would say I'd like to continue playing more Scum. So I like the high floor, high ceiling of Mando, and I'm excited to try that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stomarani is is probably tied for second. I'm a little worried about playing against it. It's one of those things where it's like I can't wait to play it, and then I'm like I don't want to play against it. It seems like it's going to be crazy. So yeah, those are I would say those two.
I liked weirdly I liked Kylo, honestly, a lot. I thought we did a good job of making him thematic. Um Generally when I'm looking at things, the first thing I care about, as which is kind of weird as a being known as a big competitive player and everything, the first thing I look at is does this meet the theme? Does this feel like the actual character that you see in the movie? And I feel like we really hit it well on Kylo. Like he took a lot of inspiration from Vader and how Vader has different abilities, and he took inspiration from Vader in the movies, and um, a lot of his abilities kind of tie into things that we've seen him do. So I'm really happy with how he ended up being.
Roberto.
I guess from all of the again, I play Resistance mostly, so from the Resistance, I have two pilots in particular that I really enjoyed how they ended up looking. And to not repeat the ones that have been said already, I will go for the new Tali, being focused on helping others, and the combination that she has with Push the Limit, where she can, for instance, do a Koyo or do a sloop, still push the limit and go ahead, take a focus and coordinate somebody else. I've been enjoying a lot playing with her, with the fact that she's an Initiative 5 ship and able to coordinate Merle, for example, to put Merle in position so that she can affect someone with the reduction on defense dice. And the other one as well is Pamich. I really enjoyed also the fact that the standard loadout card will give some good options on how Pamich ability can work, where she can stress herself to coordinate others and still also boost somebody else, and how Roger will allow her to coordinate somebody even if she's stressed, the same way that the pilot's ability is about doing red maneuvers even if she's stressed. So she will, I believe she's quite hard to catch. You really don't know what exactly Pamich will do while she has less than 3 stress, and think that's going to be an interesting option as a coordinator.
Yeah, there's a lot of I really like and Roberto mentioned this earlier, our approach to the Star Fortress. I always envision that there is a bombing Star Fortress and there's the gun fortress, right, between Finch and Benny. So I'm pretty happy with how those ended up, because I was dreading putting those together just because like those haven't been like kind of touched in a while. They have to make a whole lot of new things, and they seem like a pretty daunting task, and they were in their own right. But I
And
think
so many
we didn't have
words.
a lot of words, especially on Finch. But I was surprised kind of how much of it is where we started, I guess. Like, I don't think these Star Fortresses went through a ton of iteration. There was some cleanup here and there and some tweaking, but not wholesale level stuff. And then I think I'm really excited to see what people do with Bo-Katan and the Gauntlet. The winged reversal seems like a great tool for gauntlets, and then I wanted to try and find a way when we were thinking about a gauntlet in Scum for getting an SL, like how can we represent the Mandalorian commandos without having to put those templates on the board? And because I know Paul knows this, and I assume you're not as much of a fan, but judging any event where you have to manually move stuff around and move them underneath ships, and any bumps that occur, it just can be a nightmare of like in-game scenarios. So having some way to sort of represent that the Night Owl sentries, aka like the Bo-Katan's Night Owl Mandos, are around the ship and contributing to the fight was kind of a design point that I think both looks powerful and I think fits a good theme.
Let's get our heart in here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. I was just curious if I know this is probably super early. I know you kind of said this was your focus this time, but I'm just wondering, is there any thoughts that you would care to share about additional scenarios for the default play? Like we have the 4, regular play scenarios. Is there anything about new ones?
We're working on them. We've got some ideas. So far, it turns out designing scenarios that are fun and balanced is actually really hard. So we've actually been working on scenarios for longer than we've been working on SL cards. So yeah, no, they've been very difficult. We've completely scrapped scenarios that we've originally created and started over again. It's been difficult to get scenarios that our playtesters like and that we think are actually fun and balanced and competitive and can finish in 75 minutes and are different than the 4 scenarios we currently have. So it is not trivial, but we are planning on getting at least one new scenario at some point.
Awesome.
I don't know what that point means. I know Nick would strangle me if I started making promises for dates. So, but eventually we will come out with something.
I said ideally. I said ideally this year, which felt also wrong. I'm like, I think that's a lot of time, but ideally, I had to use the weasel word, ideally, just because it's
Yeah.
The other thing, Paul, I just wanted to ask you about scenarios too, is like, I feel like another thing you guys probably have to focus on is just people being able to remember how to play them and like the rules for setting them up, right? And like scoring and everything. It's like another thing.
Yeah, you want your scenario to be set up the same way as the other scenarios. Like, you have your center objective and you have a couple other objectives that go in the same spot. Because if you start making different scenarios that each have their own special rules, everyone's going to get confused. Like, it has to build on what's currently there. It is interesting design boundaries that you have when you're working on these, because you're like, I have to make it work with the existing scenarios, which are good. I like the current scenarios, and make them different but also fun. And yeah,
honestly, I think that's a good point.
We were aware of like the feedback that people have generally had about SLs. At times they feel like they're not currently, like, again, I echo what Paul said. I like the current scenarios as they are, but also people have been wanting something that feels more thematic to Star Wars, and also trying to attain that is an additional level plus. But just like the scenarios and the SLs, there's so much that goes into like buttoning all these up that I think until you dig into building one yourself, even trying on a homebrew level, you'll start to see all the cracks that could form if you don't button this up. And it's kind of like the cartoon of like, or just it's BB-8 plugging up all the holes and issues in Poe's ship on that run of The Last Jedi.
Regarding current scenarios, I think there has had been conversations in the past about making updates to them. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that there's a plan right now to adjust what already exists and like change scramble and change salvage. But please, if I'm just naive and don't know, correct me.
we have things in motion that I don't think we're announcing at this point.
Fair.
But they are not
Clear.
meant to change how those work. So I don't believe that we're planning on changing how chance engagement or assault work, as in the mechanics on how you score points and so on.
Yeah, you're always going to be putting your center objective and your blah 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 2 to 3, my side, opponent's side, all that stuff is still happening. Yeah, where I'm not changing the rules on the objectives, but we are looking into some other interesting things about them.
Awesome.
And I
All
have
right,
no idea when
everybody.
any of that stuff is going to be
right.
announced or.
One thing to mention too is like in the way that design is working in tandem with OP, we've already announced a lot of plans for organized play just for this year alone, including like system opens, squad championships. We've announced that we'll be back at Adepticon next year. Adepticon's excited to have us, but it's making significant overhaul changes to the structure of scenarios, to the game, what have you. It does affect organized play in some way, so we're just navigating that as well. It's not going to stop us from making those changes, but we can't have 25 feet on the gas pedal, so or 25 gas pedals. Got car references today for me. I know nothing about cars, and I'm using car analogies left and right, so it's cool. All right, everybody. I think that's going to conclude things. In this server, there is an XWA questions section you can ask questions for us to answer. They do need to get a certain amount of quote unquote stars or upvotes to make it to the stage where we do respond. That is a good avenue though if you missed out on asking us questions. Again, I do just a friendly reminder that just because it pops in your head doesn't necessarily mean it's a question that is going to benefit the community when it gets answered. So, asking me what my favorite Subway sandwich is, like, I appreciate it, but you could just DM me about that. We might not need XWA to respond to that. But we appreciate you all making the time to be here. Paul, Ryan, Roberto, you guys have done awesome work, and guys are just doing it on a volunteer basis like the rest of us. And we really do appreciate the effort that you've put in. And we're very excited to kind of enter this new era of XWA X-Wing as we move from the beta points to XWA points and look to make more exciting changes in the future, as we'll continue to keep you updated on all of that. So I'll throw it to you guys for any final words before we close out here.
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the new SL cards. Definitely give us feedback, good or bad, about things you find. I can't promise that if you say, "Oh, I hate Kylo and I want him to not kill all my ships anymore," like we're going to do anything about that. But if there's a lot of negative feedback about something or a lot of positive feedback about something, then that helps us figure out like what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, I would just say, hope you guys have a lot of fun and enjoy the new content. And yeah, echo what Paul said. Give us, as much feedback put together in any in the setup XWA manner. If Nick, I don't know if you would share the public feedback link or where that is in this Discord specifically. But yeah, give us that info. We like hearing it.
And
Roberto.
not that much to add. Hopefully you all enjoy the content that we've been creating for a while now. Actually, not sure if we've said this, but these standard loadout cars, they've been in the oven for half a year. So hopefully you will enjoy all of the new content. Give a chance to every single one of the standard loadout cards, and have as much fun playing them as we've had creating them.
Yep,
and go
definitely.
to events and play in your local game store so people can see it.
Yeah, play in your local game stores. The new content will also be, super shameless plug, but I have to. It's going to be featured in all the Conquest series as well, and that's starting on April 19th. So if you guys want to play online X-Wing, we have that happening as well, as all on tandem with upcoming OP planning events in person. So keep playing X-Wing, guys. Have fun. Give us feedback. Love to hear from you, and we're really excited to share in this journey together. We'll talk to you all very soon. Have a great rest of your weekend. Oh, it's today, Sunday now. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday or Monday if you guys are in a completely different time zone way over across the pond. And yeah, thank you all for being here and making the time. Appreciate you guys, Roberto, Paul, Ryan, for doing the same.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, see you next time.
Yep, thank you.